Elephant garlic produces big bulbs. They can weigh 1/2 pound or more. It's milder than regular garlic, it's easy to peel, and it's easy to grow. I'll show you how to plant, grow, and care for it, plus answer the questions. Is it really a garlic? And does it really take 2 years to grow? All allium family plants love sun, and elephant garlic belongs to the allium family. So if you want great big bulbs, give elephant garlic the sunniest spot in your garden, and don't be interplanting with any other crops. Elephant garlic will grow in just about any soil, but if you want to produce a great big bulb, it will prefer pH neutral, well-drained, rich soil. And by adding plenty of compost at planting time will improve that richness for that bigger bulb. The best time to be planting elephant garlic is in the fall, 2 to 3 weeks before your first average frost date. This will allow it enough time to get a good root system before you have a hard freeze. I usually plant mine with my regular garlic on a full moon. Elephant garlic isn't a true garlic. It looks a lot like a garlic, but it's much more mild in flavor, and it did get its name elephant because of the size of it. It belongs to the leek family. In fact, if you were to just see the leaves growing above ground, you wouldn't know the difference between a leek and an elephant garlic. It's what's going on underground is what the big difference is. Oftentimes, elephant garlic gets confused with colossal garlic, but they're not the same thing. Colossal garlic is just a regular garlic. Elephant garlic and regular garlic have different genetics and they grow in different ways. The botanical name for elephant garlic is Allium ampuloprasum. Elephant garlic isn't quite as hardy as regular garlic, but it does last a long time. It'll last between 10 and 12 months, and that's great. Elephant garlic is really easy to peel, much easier than regular garlic, and it generally will contain between 4 and 6 very large cloves. It also contains vitamins A, C, and E, plus some really good antibacterial properties. One thing that I do every year is I soak my cloves in a solution before planting, and I do this with my elephant garlic and my regular garlic. I've done this for 30 years and I always end up with really healthy plants and nice big bulbs. But if you're in a hurry, you could skip this step and go straight to the planting. To make the solution, you'll need a little bucket or a jar and a quart of water plus 1 tablespoon of baking soda. The baking soda is just going to help prevent any fungal or bacteria that could happen. You'll also need a little splash like a tablespoon of liquid kelp. The liquid kelp will just jumpstart those cloves. Plus, if you have it, a tablespoon of humic acid. The humic acid really helps the plants uptake nutrients. Once you have everything in your bucket of water, then mix it up. Now's the time to pull apart your cloves. You don't want to do this ahead of time because they don't keep as long. You'll toss these in there and then you're just going to let these guys soak for about 2 hours. This is a good time to prepare your soil. While my cloves are soaking, then I like to work over my soil, or at least add some compost to it. I'll add about 2 inches, but if the soil is compacted, then I'll loosen it up a little bit because elephant garlic really likes that loose soil. And we never want to add raw manure because if we add raw manure to it, then that'll just cause your cloves to rot. Because we want a good leafy green growth on our elephant garlic to get off to a good start, we want to add some nitrogen fertilizer to our soil. Some blood meal, feather meal, or even cottonseed meal are good organic choices. Make sure that you read the label for your application rates. If there isn't any instructions, then go lighter rather than heavy. 2 pounds per 100 square foot should be just fine. Sprinkle your fertilizer over the surface and then just work it into that top 2 inches of the soil. That fertilizer needs to have contact with that soil in order to be able to break down and be usable for the garlic. Now the reason we want nice leafy greens is because the more leafy green, the more photosynthesis the plant can take in. And at the end of the season, all of that nice leafy green will put all of its energy down into that bulb, creating a nice big bulb. A question that we get quite often is, how does garlic grow in pots? Well, every time I've grown garlic in pots, I've always sacrificed the size. The bulbs have never been very big, but if that's all you've got, and it really doesn't matter how big your bulbs get, then I would say go ahead and grow your garlic in pots if that's the only place you've got to grow them. Once your cloves have soaked for that 2 hours, then strain them off. But go ahead and use that solution because it's really good fertilizer for other plants in the garden. It's also really great for potted plants. Now it's time to plant. Elephant garlic has nice big cloves, and we're going to want to plant these fairly deep. We want about 4 inches of soil over the top, so that means our hole is going to be about 6 inches deep. And we want to space these about 6 to 8 inches at least apart from each other, because we want these to grow big and they need that space in order to do it. Dibblers are really helpful when planting elephant garlic. Any of these work really good because you can just poke that hole in there nice and deep and plop your cloves right in the ground. And I also like to stagger my garlic, like a dice of 5. I'll just stagger these so that I can fit more in a small space. When we plant our garlic, we want the pointed end up. The blunt end is where the roots are going to grow. We don't want to put it in upside down because garlic has a hard time orienting itself. Once we have our garlic planted, we want to get it watered and get it off and growing. Elephant garlic likes the soil to stay moist, but never waterlogged, and monitor that soil through the winter time. We don't always have rainfall through the winter, and if we don't water it, then we end up having smaller bulbs. So monitor that soil over the winter time and water when it needs it. A good practice to do when you're growing garlic, especially in cold environments, is to mulch your garlic before you have a hard freeze. That just keeps your garlic cloves from heaving up. That just lifts them up out of the soil, and then that can damage them. Some good choices of mulch are dried grass clippings, straw, or even pine needles. These all work really good to help insulate those cloves through the winter months. Now, a note about using pine needles as a mulch and their acidity. Pine needles do have a pH of 3 in their whole form, but pine needles take lots of years to break down, and by the time that they break down, they start to neutralize to a pH of 7. And 7 is perfect for growing vegetables, so they make the perfect mulch. There's been a lot of questions about elephant garlic taking 2 years to grow. Does it? Elephant garlic is a biannual. That means it completes its life cycle in 2 growing seasons. You typically get 1 bulb the first season, like this one here. It has no cloves on it. It's just 1 single bulb, and it doesn't flower that first year. All of the plant's resources will go into building up that single bulb so that it can help it survive into the 2nd year when it sends up a flower stalk, which is what's known as escape. In the 2nd year, that 1 bulb typically divides into multiple separate cloves. Fall planted garlic might have enough time to split into separate cloves. Now, this will all depend on your growing region. If you have a long growing season, you're more likely to get it to split and go into cloves that first year. If you find that you still have 1 large bulb like this one here, then you could just leave it in the ground for another growing season until it matures. Or you could just opt out and you can eat it like this and it's totally fine. I usually just leave mine in for another growing season. Spring planted garlic can be ready as little as 90 days, but more than likely you're just going to end up with 1 single bulb. If you don't harvest your garlic during the summertime, then it's going to go dormant on you. So you want to make sure that your elephant garlic is marked. And then after it starts to grow again, you're going to want to fertilize it just like we did when we planted it. So sprinkle some fertilizer over the soil and then cover it with some compost. And then again, we want to mulch it as we approach the frost date. Fertilizing your elephant garlic in the middle of winter time isn't as necessary as it is with regular garlic. And if you want more information about that, then I'll put a link here. But what is necessary, if you're getting value out of this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications of our new videos. When your elephant garlic begins to flower the 2nd season, you're going to want to pinch this off, and the earlier the better, for a couple of reasons. By pinching it off, it puts more energy down into the bulb, and that makes for a bigger bulb. And when we have them young, these are called scapes, they're really good. You can grill them, you can make them into pesto, and I really love to dehydrate them, powder them down, and use them as a replacement for garlic powder. About a month after you've harvested the scapes, you'll start to notice the leaves turn yellow and brown. When 1/3 of those leaves have gone brown, it's time to harvest. You'll want to start to dig several inches away from the stalk, just to loosen that soil, then lift your garlic out carefully. Allow your garlic to dry and cure out of direct sunshine. You can lay it flat or hang it up, it won't matter. But let it sit for a week to 10 days. After that, when it's dry, you can brush the dirt off, cut the tops off, and then store it in a cool place. And it should last you 10 to 12 months. Try planting elephant garlic. Be patient. Don't worry if it doesn't clove up. It's just how elephant garlic rolls. Go into, okay, toppled over. Does that make sense? Okay, getting it. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it.